Hello and welcome to Talking Bottom. I'm Paul Tanter.
I'm Matt Brooks.
And I'm Ange Pearson.
And this week it's Bottom Live 5.
Rhymes.
It does. Well, of course, the official title, or rather the subtitle on the DVD, is the Weapons Grade Y-Fronts Tour.
Which makes it sound very exciting, doesn't it?
And are there any weapons in it? Apart from like cricket bats and frying pans.
I think this is actually one where they bring out a more elaborate display of weapons than ever before, don't they?
There's various weapons. There is also Y-Fronts, and it was a tour. So most of these things apply even if you take the words and then jam them together to form something new.
Yeah, it was live in 2003 as well.
This one came in 2003, 2 years after the previous live show in 2001, and 10 years after they debuted the live show in 93. So it had been a full decade of live shows of, shall we say, varying quality depending on your opinion.
Yeah, so an average of one every 2 years.
Which is actually quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, when I was obviously living it, it felt like a long time that we waited for the live shows.
In terms of creative output, that's pretty impressive. A show every 2 years. You're right. I think when you're waiting for something new...
And the film.
And the film as well in 98. So that was released in 99. So they got film in there as well.
But that was never live, was it? That was always pre-filmed and then edited.
Yeah, but just the idea of like putting that out in that space of time, three series, you know. We've crammed. How long has it taken us to do this podcast?
3 years?
It's definitely 2, isn't it? We start in 2018.
So this is the one that became their final venture on stage. Of course, after this, they were to do no more Bottom together. This is the final representation of Richie and Eddie together, apart from a brief charity thing I think they did.
What's that?
It was like a Peter Cook memorial or something like that, where they came on dressed as Richie and Eddie, but they came on doing a sketch that wasn't specifically Richie and Eddie.
Oh, I don't know.
Have you not seen this?
No. Is that on YouTube?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, we're watching that after.
We'll have to look that up and have it in the roundup.
It's not very good.
Okay.
Of course, there was going to be a resurrection in 2012 of a new series of Hooligans Island.
To clarify, you say a new series of Hooligans Island. You a new series of Bottom being Hooligans Island. Though,
correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
They were going to take the title and the idea of Hooligans Island, make that the new Bottom. Ultimately, this is the last representation of the show that we have, and I think one would, hopefully you guys wouldn't disagree with me, but hey, if you do, tell me. It's not the best representation of them live. It's got a lot of effort, a lot of manic energy. There's some good lines.
The set's quite exciting when they reveal it, isn't it?
Room.
It's
new.
new.
First time we're seeing the bathroom.
Crazy
properly.
kind of like laboratory. It's like a laboratory, isn't it? Like
a laboratory.
And we kind of covered this last week in some aspects of Live 4, but we go back into a lot of meta stuff, referencing the audience, the fact that it's a show, the bar, and then there's a lot of repetition of material they've done before in 2 ways. One is with a wink and a nod saying, oh, look at us, we're doing this before, haven't we run out of material? And then other times are just when it's just repeated, but with no reference to it at all.
Does it get described in some sort of synopsis plot thing on Wikipedia?
Bottom Live 2003 Weapons Grade Y-Fronts Tour is, and it's not as long as last week's one, but it's not short either. No longer on Hooligans Island, Richie and Eddie find themselves back in their flat in Hammersmith. Having locked himself in the lavatory for 15 days, Eddie is disrupted when Richie barges in, discovering that his friend has transformed the room into a laboratory.
lavatory.
Inside are various inventions, including the evacuator, a super powerful vacuum cleaner that Eddie uses as a toilet, the patent painless tattoo remover, alias a blunt hammer, and weapons grade lager, a self-perpetuating alcoholic drink that leads to a prolonged period of unconsciousness. Richie then discovers a trunk sent to him from his deceased uncle, Peregrine Richard. Inside are the plans for various inventions Eddie has supposedly either stolen or plagiarized. However, one invention remains untouched, Peregrine Richard's elixir of life. Richie hurriedly drinks the potion, hoping to gain immortality, but is shocked when Eddie discovers that the substance is poisonous. In order to save his friend, Eddie reluctantly uses his very own time-travelling toilet, i.e. the Turdis, to reverse time and stop Richie from drinking the elixir. Fully restored, they realise they can use the Turdis to reach the theatre's bar before the audience, and depart immediately. Richie and Eddie continue their search for the bar, having been unsuccessful for 3.5 years. During their escapades, Eddie manages to lodge Richie's head in the Turdis door and dislodge it with a dynamite stick. Richie is forced to repower the ship via friction he causes by pleasuring himself, leading to a mass heckle from the theatre audience as orchestrated by Eddie. As an unforeseen result, the pair find themselves travelling further and further back through time, right back to the beginning of time itself. After a narrow escape from his shrinking underpants, triggered by the reversal of time, Eddie joins Richie as they discover the meaning of everything, pants, thanks to the appearance of the mother pants, and they depart by singing an ode to the ever-useful undergarment.
What?
That is the plot as it is on
It's
Wikipedia.
more depressing. Why would reversing time make your pants shrink? It's not the same thing. There's so many fucking holes in that.
Well, there's lots of holes in your underwear.
Are you saying that the universe of bottom does not conform to the known laws of space-time and physics?
I am,
And
but
are you
I'm
annoyed
also,
about that?
I'm also annoyed that it doesn't have any internal logic within itself. First one,
You get so annoyed when things don't make any logical sense,
I
though,
do,
Matt.
I do, but that's like they made
every time.
effort.
I mean, we're on the last one, so
Sure.
every
This
time
one,
you're like, why
why
is it doing that? It's
have they not
because
even-
it's a joke.
Can I just
They've not even made an effort to explain how they've gotten off the island.
can I just
They don't
annoying
need
to
to
me.
explain.
Can I just say that when Richie cut Eddie's legs off with a chainsaw and sewed them back on, you were fine with that?
Yeah, yeah, but that's like the internal logic of that.
I know.
They then sew it back on. They're making the
I know.
yeah.
It goes full circle.
I think we talked about this briefly, not on the podcast, is that the thing that you don't like, Matt, is when Eddie has had schemes in other instances, such as forging money or something like that, or making a homebrew, that kind of thing. All of these things are things that can exist within reality. And this example, the whole time traveling thing, is just a bit too fantastical.
It's because you can't suspend your disbelief about it.
Yeah, I suppose so. And
you
it's
don't
to
like
me,
that, but like with some science fiction and stuff, you have to.
yeah, but they
to
are
just enjoy the
doctors.
plot.
It would never be one of the most deviant alcoholics in the world who's just accidentally invented time travel.
No, but it's
Fuck
a
me.
comedy, isn't it?
It is, but it's not a very funny one. This one, the Turdis, that's a fucking Viz comic.
I
Dr.
was
Pooh and the
bought a joke porn film once for a laugh, and it was called Dr. Lou and the Phallics.
Okay.
And there was a thing in it called the Turdis.
Yeah, brilliant.
And,
But it gets a cheer from the fucking audience.
Rick and
Turdis.
Aid's one's
so
better.
bloody obvious.
it's a crowd pleaser, this one, isn't it? It's again a crowd pleasing show.
Can I assume that Dr. Lou had a sonic screwdriver that was a vibrator?
It was a plunger
Right,
of some
okay.
sort. I seem to. I didn't watch the whole thing.
The actual
You only need to
Daleks.
watch the first 5 minutes.
But
Don't
the
you?
actual real Daleks in the show have a plunger, don't they?
That's true.
That's
Anyway, sorry to digress. Yes, you're right. This one is, again, like 4, it's a crowd pleaser. We'll do a round robin of our greatest hits and go through them. The audience gets to, in this one, not to jump ahead, but I'm going to, and this is the one where they don't just give a subtle way for the audience to shout, have a wank. It's totally invited. Have a wank has become Richie and Eddie's version of he's behind you, like a pantomime.
yeah.
But
And
then, do
he
you not
said-
like that?
By this point, I'm kind of along for the ride and going, fuck it, you know what, go on, you can have it. You're embracing it so much that you're literally queuing up for the audience.
It's made into a plot point.
Yeah,
Don't
but-
mind that one.
There's a bit where I think Aid says
You
he's
know
a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
And he's like, crowd disappointer.
Yeah.
And they're actually just saying
Yeah.
what is happening on stage before everyone. So did you go and see this one?
No.
Matt? No.
I did not see this one, and also didn't see it when it came out on DVD for a
really?
little while. I borrowed it. The only one I didn't own for a while.
So you didn't have that affection of having seen it live?
No.
Like
Did you see this one live?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again in Liverpool.
Yeah?
And
What was it like?
well, live it was great.
Yeah.
You know, I think even with it being great live, still like the disappointment, and we may as well just talk about it overarchingly in the beginning. We've gone through the plot, quote unquote. The fact they repeat the song at the end was
That-
a disappointment
yeah.
to me in the room that night.
Yeah.
And it was like, how are they just repeating the same song?
And-
It's literally the same.
And this is what I mean about how some things don't get referenced, but some things do. So we get the what the fuckity fuck.
Yeah.
Well, the fuck am I there? You mean?
Yeah.
And that gets followed by, oh, that's old material. You did
Yeah.
this 2 years
And
ago.
then it's like, oh, okay, they're doing something clever with it.
It's like they've done that to
Yeah.
then excuse the
To end with the song and not go, yeah, we've already done this. Well, we just do it again. It
Yeah.
feels like a bit of a cop-out.
I mean, they do have the big, massive Y fronts, which make it a bit more of a showstopper in a way.
Tiny bit.
A skid
more,
mark
yeah.
of a ending. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's strange that they don't even reference it, like you say,
Mhm.
and acknowledge that's what they're doing. They don't even change a single line. They even have the stop and the I haven't seen a single minge,
Yeah.
which
So the
completely
close- yeah.
takes away from how funny it is in 4.
Yeah.
Because it's completely the exact same line.
Let's-
If they changed it and turned it into a different
version of
word
the same
for
tune.
minge, a different kind of like funny word.
There's some really good written lines in this. What in the name of Satan's fetid foreskin, for example.
Yes.
That's brilliant wordplay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's as good as anything that would as in the series.
There's no reason why they couldn't have said any other word to just give that a little bit of a fresher punchline, because there's lots of different words for minge.
There's
cunt, flange, flaps.
Twats.
Twat.
It does say the only twat I've been near is him, but I think that's said on 4
Well,
as
they
well.
invented twadge, didn't they?
Right.
Her Madge's vag, like twadge, has always been associated for me with bottom, even though I'm sure it's probably before that.
There's some really inventive cleverness of things so the whole we're going to have to redo the whole 40 minutes in fast forward.
I love
solid.
that bit.
That's solid, and it just shows how well choreographed it was.
And considering everyone kind of went into it being like, oh, they're a bit old for this now, and all this sort of stuff, like that is actually like a really, really difficult physical performance, isn't it? That they pull off, like they're fucking knackered, but they pull it off.
Another thing that's completely repeated as well is when the interval comes up, we're going to go to the bar. It's the same joke again. And
literally the same thing,
It's like they took 4, like the
And
script
sort
or
of
whatever,
redid it.
and literally thought, well, what can we just change up a bit here? And then what can we reuse? Like literally from, and it, it's 2001 into 2003. It's not even a long period of time for people to forget what happened the year, 2 years previously.
In keeping with them following the form that they'd laid down for the first 4 live shows, the show starts off, as ever, with Richie off stage yelling at Eddie for taking too long on the toilet.
Yeah.
So it's
15 days too long.
It's a similar setup. Richie off stage, Rick starts it.
That's fine though.
Yeah.
I don't
Do you
mind that at all.
find, like, the camera angles in this one are a bit like too intense on
There was
their
a
faces?
big close up on Richie that it cut away, or cut to him while he was doing something like down the camera. He was showing off to the camera. It's cut away. It's edited
they
weird.
miss it, don't they? And then I think also just because of the stage at the Cliffs Pavilion, it's in Southend on Sea, isn't it?
So I know Southend very well, and the accents and Basildon. He says, "Well, might when Basildon gets a fucking cheer."
Yeah, I've been to the Cliffs Pavilion in Southend as well, and
it's quite a small theatre.
It's always a good audience there, though. Like, you can tell we're in Essex, can't you? It is actually a really good audience that they've got for it. I think it's good that they filmed it there, but then. I don't know if it's because of the slanting stage or what, but the set sort of looks ski-whiff behind Rick.
I think
it takes a while for your brain to just kind of like ignore that, because it's just like behind every shot of Rick, particularly at the beginning, maybe it's just that I let it kind of like just flow over me from then on. Like the set's like ski-whiff behind him, they don't push the button.
I never noticed that.
Straight in. It's like just how the stage is set up, but the cameras haven't been like adjusted for it. I don't know. It's a bit jarring when you first watch it.
Sure, they should have had a test day or something. Maybe.
But they must have done, don't you think? Yeah. They must have tested.
I think
it's a different director, this one, isn't it? It's Dewey Humphreys.
It's the same director who directed number 4.
Is it? Right, okay. So it is the same one with that. He did Vicar of Dibley.
I think he did Ab Fab, Vicar of Dibley. It's quite a long comedy CV of not entirely the biggest hits. It's not like an Ed By sort of CV, but there's a lot of stuff in there that you go, well, I know that, and I know that. Yeah.
But respectable enough CV to be like, well, you shouldn't have like not known how to get that right. Do you know what I mean?
Being a live show, though, it obviously is less
Did he
forgiving.
also do Keeping Up Appearances? Is that why there's that little nod in there? Isn't there a little thing that's like, oh, wouldn't you rather be watching Keeping Up Appearances?
Oh, right, okay.
Isn't that in? That is in 5. I always thought maybe that's a dig, because there's a couple of Welsh digs, isn't
But if him directing 4 and 5 is anything like Ed By said the way he directed number 3, it's actually that Rick and Ade directed the show, and then they just brought in a director to cover the nights it was filming. Yeah. So they played this show at the Southend Cliffs Pavilion on 3 nights, 28th, 29th, 30th of October 2003. And if it was anything like the other times they would record the shows, they probably recorded it over 2 or 3 nights and then used the best bits from each one.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know whether Dewey Humphreys was the director for the entire thing, or whether Rick and Ade just kind of did it themselves.
I have to say, I think the laboratory, that's a fun word and fun to say, but I think that set is the weakest of all of the sets. In any of them, and I'm even talking about the backstage.
Do you mean weakest as in it doesn't look like it's quality?
Yeah, it looks like a cartoon drawing. Some of the bits. It's got
the green tiles, don't they?
Yeah, they've gone for like there's a silhouette of where the system of the toilet was. It's been taken out and made into the Turdis. So, right, I kind of get that, but it just looks like a drawing.
I think that it works quite well with the whole, it's like, what is it, the evacuator or whatever? Like that's
I mean, the backdrop, I should say, is really weak. But the evacuator thing, I think they miss a thing with the nozzle going into Richie's bum and it comes out, and I think it should be a bit longer. It should be contracted, because it is that, but it just doesn't expand out enough for a joke. It should be
it's gone all the way up there, kind of thing.
The set does, in my mind, look and feel cheaper than previous ones. If you look at what we had in number 1, we had a faithful recreation of the flat, all the props in it. Number 2, same thing, but then you had the prison as well. Hooligan's Island, the island felt like it was expensive production design. You look at it and you think, well, that's just a spray backdrop on wood.
Like if they did a kid's colouring book of Bottom.
Yeah.
I agree.
Which I would fucking definitely
it does,
like.
and I think that may be why it jars a little bit when you're seeing it in the background, a bit kind of like not quite straight even. You're like, that doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right.
One thing the set does allow them, I think, is very good entrances for both of them. Rick is just a natural one through a door, but coming in, playing up to the audience, touching the knob, that kind of thing, getting them to cheer a bit louder. But then Aid's entrance, he literally sort of explodes onto the stage, doesn't he?
It's like a magician.
Very impressive, yeah. And you're thinking, great.
He's late 40s now. I think they say that, and he leaps off the table.
Yep.
He's still pretty physically fit.
Oh,
very smart.
I assume they had like a rising platform that brought him up quickly.
No, he leaps off it down.
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
When he gets down, it's very swift. I don't think I could do that. Yeah. And there's also, you can see it from the off, the do not press button again, isn't there? So you get straight away, you're like, right, you have some repeat material here. Then
like you would have Jackass 3.5, where they've just re-edited it and put it. So this is kind of not Bottom Line 5. It's redone 4.
Yeah.
There's a bit too many similarities.
Yeah, it's like they could have called it like Bottom Live 2003, the reboot or whatever, couldn't they? And you could have been like, oh, right, okay, you're just bringing this tour back on. Out again.
Do you think the setting of it in a toilet and then the massive Y fronts at the end, do you think it was just, again, Rick and Aid going as meta as possible, going, the show is called Bottom, it's toilet humour.
We'll been a conversation, toilet humour in the toilet.
We'll do what we should have finally done with it all along. We've been heading in this direction all along from the living room via islands and via prison, but eventually we end up in a toilet with pants.
Yeah. We'll have them time travelling, which will bring a bit of an extra thing to it.
It doesn't really go anywhere.
Well, I mean, we've said
voids.
Before that we always thought Rick should be Doctor Who. Maybe there's a little bit of we both could have played the Doctor, but we're never going to get put in that role by the BBC because we're famous for toilet humour. So I think they would never have asked either of them to be Doctor Who.
Mistake.
At that point in time, because they were just too famous for being like filthy, weren't they? But then that was why it was a shock when Peter Capaldi got put
absolutely.
in. Like,
you see these
tirades of abuse from his role as Malcolm Tucker online, and then he's playing the Doctor, which is a kid's role model.
There's a fake trailer.
We fucking time travel.
Yeah, absolutely amazingly cut.
Yeah.
But
really well done.
The Turdis nod is it's just a pun, isn't it, on turd and TARDIS?
Oh,
but it is quite fun. Like, in the moment of watching it, you're like, it's coming, but you're kind of like, it's all right. It doesn't deserve the round of applause and reaction it gets. But if you've got a time travelling toilet, what else are you going to call it?
Doesn't need to be a time travelling toilet.
But that's what they've written in.
They've written this. I just feel they got the gag Turdis first.
You reckon?
And then,
you reckon it was backwards that way?
Yeah, I think Tyler says about Turdis. What about time travelling toilet? GMTV gets a little reference, which feels a little bit dated. I actually were they talking about MTV? What? Oh yeah, Good Morning TV.
Yeah, well they do obviously Good Morning Britain as well with Anne and Nick, don't they? In the previous Bottom, so it's not the first time they've had to go with morning television.
It's written on the bottle of weapons grade lager that looks especially like a repurposed bottle of Budweiser.
It does, doesn't it?
So the toilet setting, apart from the fact that it's a time travelling toilet and there's some good weapons, the biggest prop that essentially the story revolves around, or a lot of the story revolves around, is the evacuator, which does provide some good humour with Rick and Aid when he's disimpacting Rick and then having to throw it into reverse. Both the initial plunge into him, Rick does shock and sudden pain very well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But then there's
descend into full-on homosexual.
Yeah.
I mean, they've only, previously they've hinted at it with Richie, haven't they?
Yeah, it just
and then with this one, it's just all out.
It feels gay in this one.
Well, they've talked. Isn't there a bit where they actually refer to him having been around in the army? He was nicknamed Pussy.
My arse doesn't have any knowledge of toilets in this area. Not what I've heard.
There's lots of direct references to the fact that Richie's gone all out gay, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's again, if you look at it, it's where they've been building to for the last
it's like
12 years.
Let's go less subtle each reiteration of Bottom.
Yeah. Rick's hair's not right in it, is it? It's
That's-
too short.
Sort of spiky, sort
And
of
it's
full
kind
of
of ginger.
an old drop dead Fred.
Yeah.
It's not. It looks.
And I'm not having a go at him
old.
being older because obviously,
I mean,
that's going to happen.
it's hard. Yeah, you can't say this older Rick looks old. Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
It's just the hair isn't quite right. Whereas in 4, actually, I think it's the classic Richie hair, isn't it? So
because
considering
3
it's
looks
just
different because it's blonde.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But yeah, this one he looks the most unlike Richie that he ever has done.
Yeah.
And I feel they call him a has-been twice in this one. It's like, no, that's not fair. That it's still fucking funny and still a national treasure.
They do occasionally fall back on their old faithful of we'll do the stage fuck up, such as I thought to myself, Richie, you've got your name wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was staged, and B, I didn't think it worked that well.
No, I didn't think that was a fuck up at first. I thought that was just them being a bit stupid.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I accidentally said Richie instead of Eddie. And it's like, it didn't come across well. Wasn't sold well.
Yeah.
Was it? It's kind of like, it's just that he's having that in his mind because he's drunk or whatever.
There's some pretty good written gags in there. One of which comes to mind is the "Why you're an alcoholic? Because I drink a lot," which is the same sort of funny literalness that you get as you sucked water in through your eyes.
Yeah, and like, what do you do when you have a heart attack? Just kind of chest and feel over. Like, it's classic Bottom kind of logic.
It's slightly
thinking,
more absurdist, isn't it?
I also like the fact that Eddie is also saying, it takes real staying power to be a proper alcoholic. The idea that that's actually his job.
It's
to be an alcoholic.
Ones, not Bottom was got a similar one. Was like, what's good for a hangover? Drinking heavily the night before.
Yeah. Did you notice
Mike and Vivian?
Did you notice what Rick was drinking from that I thought was going to get referenced? I thought was going to be integral at some point to the story.
No.
Rick pulls out from behind, the big thing in the middle that's part of the evacuator. He's occasionally sipping from a yellow mug.
Oh.
And then when Aid starts talking,
it gets poisoned.
Right, when Aid starts talking about weapons grade lager, because I hadn't seen this in ages and I didn't really remember it, I was thinking any moment now he's going to say, but then I found out it was poisoned. Anyway, I put it in the yellow mug or something, and then Rick would double take.
Even more of a callback.
Yeah, but there was no reference to it. But I thought, that's a yellow mug. Yes. And I wondered, is that a little, just like we threw that in? But I thought if they were going to throw it in as a nod, they would have wrung everything they could out of it. They would have referenced it for the fan. So it was actually probably just that was any mug available in the theatre.
It's there for an eagle-eyed fan such as yourself to be like, oh, yellow mug. Were they marketing it in the foyer? Don't know.
Yellow mugs.
They would, as you say, they would have referenced it if they wanted it to be noticed.
We talked last week briefly about how at some points in these later live shows, Rick and Aid would drop in bits of material that maybe weren't specifically Bottom in themselves, but they did on stage dressed as Richie and Eddie in their voices. And for me,
moving into the
what comes to mind here is when they put on voices, and at the beginning of it I thought, oh, are they being like 2 New York detectives? And then as it went on I thought, oh no, maybe they're being LA socialites. I'm not really sure.
I think they're just taking the piss out of American dramas, aren't they?
Yeah,
but it just felt like a separate sketch. It's like, I've got this 2-minute sketch. What can we do with it? Drop it into the middle of the live show. We'll have Richie and Eddie do it and
they
voices.
have done that, take the piss out of American stuff before. It's like,
but
they're great, these American things, aren't they? About
that was just a purposely bad impression that goes on way too long. It's just nothing. It
doesn't lead to anything.
That's a point. If they'd ended that at 30 seconds, you might have gone, okay, that was all right, that was a bit. But instead,
I always liked the help and being mugged and raped and murdered.
That's fine. That's making a comment on something other than just saying the words. Yeah.
Well, they were just saying all the words that had become. I think if you'd actually asked them why they put that in, it would probably be that they hated the way that kids in Britain today are now taking on all of these phrases from Americanisms.
I can get that, but
because it's entered the language.
Cringe,
because it's
so cringy.
Well, is it at a certain extent of by this time, they're kind of making dad jokes to a certain point? They're no longer the young ones; they're now the dads, aren't they? Who are just being a little bit kind of. That's their opinion of the world, and all these Americanisms. Oh, hey kids, all that, and they're purposely bad impressions to take the piss out of it, but it doesn't go anywhere. So I appreciate why you're saying it's not actually worth them having put in.
The proposed new series of Bottom was going to be a Hooligans Island thing, but there was also another version which was going to be Richie and Eddie in an old folks' home.
Yes,
which never happened.
Hitting each other with colostomy bags.
I mean, the most obvious title would be.
Old Bottom.
The old ones, I thought, right? When you think that's probably what they've done.
But then you are specifically referencing this is a sequel to the young ones, not to Bottom.
I guess so.
Bottom has never been an official sequel to the young ones.
But isn't it interesting in this one how they go into Vivian and Rick?
That I would have loved to see more of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that.
I'm sure.
They just dip their toes into that.
Yeah.
Like, fuck me.
Would
yes,
have rather
please.
have had the extended
If they'd have
impressions
come out,
on that. Yeah.
like if they'd have gone back into the Turdis and come out in the costumes, they would have got a fucking standing ovation. It would have gone to, and Rick and Vivian in the bodies of these other two characters, and them saying like, "Oh, am I?" Like Rick, oh no, am I still a virgin or something? And Vivian maybe like, I'm wearing a wig, I've gone bald.
And then Dave Hedgehog walks on, and they go, "Fucking hell, Mike, you've let yourself go."
And Neil, you're completely different.
Yeah, Neil, you've put on weight, and you've become shorter.
Now everyone talks about what would be an amazing crossover, don't they, and stuff. But but maybe they again would have thought that's just a bit too self kind of like.
But it's
congratulatory,
better than fuck all, which is what they did do for the second half. It does feel like it just kind of ends on a whimper to me. Like the last bit of bottom is just bleh,
I know what you mean.
ending on it.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I'm sure there are people out there that would say, "Oh, 5 is the one I saw," and
I don't think anyone would say this is the best that they've
I don't
ever
think they'd
put
say
out.
it's the best that will. I don't know. Maybe some people would be arguing that they think 5's better than the ones that we like. Everyone can have different opinions on it.
I don't think so.
I don't think they would because quite clearly the quality has gone.
There's
down.
stuff a lot there. I mean, being too negative. There's a very funny bit I like with your monkey's uncle or something, and then like, oh, that was thrown out of court. Well, yes, but it got thrown back in.
Yes.
So there's been some sort of court case against
the discovering of the chest and everything as well is
that feels very bottom 1 and 2. Like with the relative and.
And all that, great Uncle Peregrine and all that.
So the trunk turns up, and I thought, this is going to be a good opportunity. There's going to be a lot of humorous things in here, embarrassing stuff that'll have Richie going, "Oh my god," and things that show the Richard family was depraved.
Yeah, there was no joke of this Mavis. It was just what that could have been Richie in a wig.
It was, "Here's my teddy," and I thought, this will be a setup for a joke. Nothing. It was just his teddy. Oh, okay. Does it have like a
hole where it's been fucked or something?
Yeah,
no,
nothing.
His leg had come off, and that's.
But it's all to then have the almost plot of the
poison
Eddie's
thing.
Intercepted it, and he's pretended
it's like
he's
a case of
invented
MacGuffins,
the machines.
isn't it? It's all plot pieces.
Yeah. But you're right, like they could have got more out of the objects that were being pulled out of that beyond just, it's Eddie stealing it, because it's straight away you know that it's for Richie, the chest. So it's not like a big reveal that, Eddie's like plagiarised the inventions. But it is nice, isn't it, when Richie's like, and Eddie, you've beaten him to it.
Yeah, that takes his sides.
That innocent thing that Richie would always do, which would be like, isn't that like such a coincidence?
As much as I dislike the idea that Eddie has cracked time travel, it's an interesting way they represent showing time travel on stage when you can't rewind and do camera tricks and stuff, and just coming out, and it's like an internal time bubble, weird loop that he's in, and he's like his mind gets reset back or something. And them fast forwarding through the whole of the first act is pretty solid. Props to them for that. I think
that entire bit is very well thought out, and it explains why they wanted to do the Turdis joke and all of that, because it builds to that, and I think you can't slag them off for that because it's a fresh idea. That's new. It's interesting in terms of bottom.
They use it entirely leading up to the break to have them get to the bar before the audience, which is them literally repeating a joke from Live 4 and going all meta again. Hey, we're in a stage show again.
Yeah.
So it feels like in that regard they're going, well, not to make a joke about them going back in time, but they're going back over, old ground, really.
They could have had jokes of them going to different historical events and interacting with stuff. Like there's loads of stuff.
They put them into nothingness,
right?
Don't they?
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. It could have been just before the break. Okay, we're going back in time. Poof, explosion, big pyro effect. Boom, boom, lights go down. Second half. Poof, you idiot! I can't believe you nailed Jesus up to the cross. I can't believe you accidentally killed Hitler or something like that.
Oh, just to go back, do you like or think that it was any way real about the anal leakage? Ad-lib?
It's a pretend ad-lib, isn't it?
It seems to be, but again, Rich is such a good actor. It seems like he genuinely laughs, doesn't it? But I bet he's just selling it well.
He's good at doing that, isn't he?
Because he really does quite genuinely seem to laugh at that. But then because he says you didn't say that last night, you're like, that's it on purpose.
Well, I bet every night when he was going, I've got some sad tragic news, people were going, oh my God, he's actually laughing. And with that, I think it's time for a word from our sponsor.
Fill too tight? Sellotape. Seal it right. Glue's slow to stick.
Sellotape.
Then try this trick. It's got fluff on.
Sellotape.
Now it's gone. Odds and ends.
Sellotape.
Robot friends. Sellotape makes it better.
Right, so something that's very cartoony, but Bomb's always been cartoony, and I actually forgive it. I think it's all right that they use dynamite for the first time.
Yeah.
Dynamite is
Yeah.
weird that it's a real thing because it's so it's as iconically cartoon as a plunger.
It should almost have Acme written on it, shouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, where does it go? Up Richie's arse.
And then in his mouth, he sells it as an ad lib, but it's obviously written with when he's getting a beating. It's like, oh, we're having a quad bike flashback. They did the quad bike joke before in series 4.
It's a different audience, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I suppose you could look at it in the people who are here tonight weren't all in that last show.
The quad bike accident was brilliant, wasn't it? I loved it when he...
What, the quad bike accident?
When his head got all smashed
Well, I
up.
mean, if only it had been on film.
I think I don't mind him repeating the quad bike thing, but I did mind the exact same joke of Eddie cut the brakes. Again,
Right.
That,
Repetition of Eddie cut the brakes. Then there was a repetition of I'm beginning to see why Stephen Fry
Yeah, and
fucked
that's
off.
not timely anymore.
Which
That
is
was-
weird, isn't
yeah.
it? They do that as a callback.
8 years after Stephen Fry got on that ferry, because it was 95, wasn't
and then
it?
wasn't it also that was after Richie's wanking him off?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would have thought, well, wouldn't Stephen Fry stayed for that?
yeah,
Yeah.
but it does say, obviously, you know what he smells like then, all that stuff. And
Yeah, like they do play with it a bit, but well, quite literally. But I don't know. Yeah, it's a weird thing to call back to, I think. But maybe people had said they really loved that reference or something.
Yeah.
Too,
So
and they
do
were
it
like,
again.
You know what I genuinely do believe was unique to the night of the recording is them dealing with the audience shouting wankers.
Yeah.
The way, I mean, Aid handled it initially, but then Rick joins in. The way they both shut them up and then do that key thing of don't make it you versus them, get the entire audience to unite against the people.
Because I think I said it in the last episode about how it can very quickly go out of control, can't it? That kind of because it's a pantomime and people do feel they can
And
join
then
in.
If everyone starts joining in,
Yeah,
we will
it could be
2
chaos.
hours longer.
Yeah,
But like you know that Aid has got it in hand. The moment that the audience starts yelling to shut those people up, and what does he do? He goes, no, let them say it or something like that. I'm in control here, and now I'm going to destroy you, cunt. Aid does a long rambling impression of a Southern person, Southern
That's
American.
even worse than the
Yeah.
previous American thing, and they do the
Then-
weird Eminem thing with him, like doing back and forth with weird finger gestures.
Weird Eminem thing, but
I
also,
quite like the I am the white Eminem though.
only about 10 years after the show was big on television, he did an impression of the referee from Gladiators.
My first.
Remember that guy?
Really old.
Gladiators,
It was old
ready!
then. It was old then.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really untopical, even for 2003.
But do you think they're doing it on purpose for some weird reason?
I
Don't know.
Just kind of like, let's mention all the most naff things that we can think of and
Yeah.
own it.
If they had have gone with time travel, going to different historical areas, or have them reverted into younger versions of themselves in old bodies, or had young one things,
Yeah.
that would just been so
Could
much
have
more
gone in another
interesting.
You know what I was impressed with? It was a certain prop. You know when
He stuck his hand to the thing.
he's got
That's
the block
all
of magazines
Yeah.
that his hand's stuck to, and you look at it and
Shreds
go,
it.
"Oh, how's his hand stuck to it?" And what it is, it's a
Plastic thing.
fake plastic hand that his hand's inside.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like a-
You look-
then.
You
Yeah,
can see it really clearly. It's like fake fingers.
You won't
Yeah.
see that unless you have a close up, which you do for the DVD, but
Absolutely,
for the audience, yeah.
I liked that it kind of had the reveal of more weapons and things to choose from on this one, like the little
Yeah.
cabinet that Eddie opens and there's like all the
Choose your
Anvil on a
video
rope,
game.
classic.
Yeah, just the classic anvil on a rope.
yeah,
I've
which
never
they
heard that
haven't
before.
had that in Bottom
Yeah.
before, but it's the cartoon thing, isn't it? Of, you know,
An anvil.
we're referencing
Yeah.
that.
But again-
that's what we could be playing with here.
now that's a really nice thing to have in the background, but it's a shame they didn't actually use it in any regard. Either him swinging it and twatting Richie around the face with it, or just landing on Richie at some
But
point.
then we were disappointed they had a baseball bat in 4, and then they brought
Yeah.
back the cricket bat, and it's just
Yeah.
like, what is it like the joy of the nasal cartilage on Willow? Or
Whack
something.
on Willow, yeah.
It's nice. There's some poetic lines in it, violently poetic.
Then it rapidly comes to the end, which is a repetition of the musical number, only with the only change that now there's a pair of massive underpants on stage that we call the mother pants. I feel like by the end, there's no real pretense that this is bottom. It's all just being played directly to the audience. And it's the culmination of like a greatest hits album that they've been doing all evening. All right, there's homosexuality, a couple of fights, and a lot of fucking around doing stuff that didn't really have much link to bottom.
And they have Eddie doing his list, don't they, of like different names and things, and ending up with like cunty flaps or whatever.
Yeah, it didn't really have much link to bottom beyond that they were in costume as Richie and Eddie, really.
Yeah, certainly.
I mean, like
they put themselves into a predicament that they're lost in time, and they get out of it by not doing it. They don't get out of it. They sing a song. The end. That's not storytelling. That is the weakest ending they've ever done.
I was thinking about the comparison of 4 and 5 to the first 3. The first 3 tended to be plot driven. If you notice in the first 3, there's always lots of mentions of other stories and of the the characters that we always like marvel at the names of, all these other people.
Rusty old Wimflap and
name me any of those people who get mentioned in 4 and 5. None, because there's no bottom universe history and there's no story to them.
One is the relative of
Peregrine,
great uncle
Peregrine Richard
with the Throp or whatever.
I do like the fact that his family has a crest. So were they once actually aristocratic and have just lost their money for
That's the
centuries?
insinuation, isn't it? That the Richards were actually quite well to do, and that's why Richie has this idea that he's
at
middle
least
class.
a landlord, sort of inherited property,
There's
sometimes.
a bit, isn't there, where it says my auntie pays the rent.
Yes, so
that's the arrangement.
she's alive again.
Yeah. So they're moneyed. He's come from some sort of moneyed background. His mum abandoned him.
Every time they referenced Peregrine Richard, it sounded like even Richie was calling him Peregrine Richards.
Yeah, he does say an S on the end of it.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, that's not your surname.
Yeah.
Your name is Richard.
I think at one point he says it like as in it belongs to the Richard.
To the Richards.
Oh, right, okay.
So it belongs to Richard.
Okay.
Because if you use the plural of Richard, it would become the Richards,
Yeah.
wouldn't it? But there is one bit where he says Richards and it doesn't quite sound right.
I want to say, I find it so fucking rich that they say, there's a plot this year in 1, 2 and 3. When there are plots, they are not the best plots in the world, but 4 and 5 are literal without plots.
Well, it is weird, isn't it? How they just like kind of crowbar in the "This Is Your Life" reference as well, don't they?
Like, for 1 second.
Yeah. It could have been more of a thing, couldn't it? Where they do like a flashback for all of Richie's thing, or make much bigger of a deal of it. It's like you said, Paul. There's a lot of ideas they had that they tried to do as like individual little sketches, and then just like kind of cram it all in together. I still found it quite fun on the
They
rewatch.
could have had the time travel element as the plot device for doing old material and going back and doing things like that, but they didn't run with that properly.
It's not quite executed well, is it?
It's just made me think of when I went to see, I think I've told you guys this before. Last year I went to see the Only Fools and Horses musical.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And it was quite good. And it was like, there was a lot of inventiveness with the story. But, so you've seen it, Ange. You know that on that show, they sing the theme tune 3 times.
Yeah.
They do it near the beginning, they shoehorn it in the middle, then they do it at the end and everyone comes out and everyone's singing.
Sure.
And I got the impression from the audience, they would have been happy if the cast had just sung that song over and over and over again for the entire 90 minutes.
It was like Only Fools and Horses karaoke, because they just redid a lot of the classic scenes and then didn't really have a plot.
Right, let me guess, which I'm not seeing it, let me guess what scenes are in it.
Well, then they do this montage at the end.
Right, they do the entire... Right, the chandelier doesn't get referenced. They do loads of things like Del keeps on leaning near a bar.
Okay.
And you think, he's going to go, and then it doesn't.
That's good.
And the chandelier never happens until literally at the end they're like, good night! And then a chandelier falls down in the background.
That's pretty solid then.
Which is quite satisfying when they do it that way, isn't it? It's been well thought out.
It's like, we didn't forget. There you go.
And is it right there that you can see it at the beginning? And it's kind of there,
I didn't see it at the beginning.
Not like a Chekhov's gun as such, but it's there.
Okay.
And I thought, they're going to do like a Phantom of the Opera style thing with it. Because that starts with this chandelier crash, doesn't it? But maybe I've just imagined it was there the whole time. But anyway, go and watch that. That's good fun.
It seemed a bit like, in the same way that audience would have been happy at the theme tune being sung for 90 minutes, a lot of the audience, and I would have been in this myself, I include myself in this, a lot of the audience would have been happy if they'd just gone to see a show and Rick and Aid had gone, right, we're going to do a fight with frying pans, ding dong, right, we're going to do this bit from this episode, and it's going to be like a now compilation of our greatest hits, and people would go away happy.
The thing is, because the bottom line 1, 2 and 3s are almost like movies. They're so tight, they're so solid. We don't slag off the Fast Show live show. You know, when that's just and the League of Gentlemen ones, it's like, yeah, it's all right. It's just one of those things. But because the standard has been so fucking incredibly high,
They're
because
sketch shows, aren't they? So they
Yeah.
can do like favourite sketches.
because their basis in television is sketch,
Yeah.
they can just go on stage and go, "We're just going to do the same thing." And the Fast Show was like Harry Enfield, was like the League of Gentlemen, which is. The situation might be a little bit different, but we're all heading towards the same punchline that you saw last week and the week before.
And you love seeing it.
Yeah.
because you're-
Whereas Bottom always at least said, we're going to try and make this a narrative story.
Yeah.
So that instantly you've set yourself something, it's more difficult because even if you do have a series of loosely linked sketches, but you want to link them through a narrative, you set yourself a hurdle you have to overcome.
And that's why it is more difficult for them, because I think essentially they probably have sat down and said, well, what can we like touch upon? What have they liked before? What works? And they've decided, let's just give them that, but it's not the same. But it's just kind of tweaking it or trying to crowbar in the same references.
I do think the audience of Bottom is such a wide demographic, like a bit like Al Murray, with some people don't really get the irony.
Yes,
and will be pissed at their head, like, it was really...
like
sorry.
Down at the
You
end.
you think that there's a wide-ranging Bottom audience? Yes, I'm sure there's some barristers and QCs in the audience watching it.
I think there's, the Pythons are have degrees from Cambridge and stuff. So that you need to have levels of qualifications, still like silly humour. So I think there would still be people.
There's
who
the
kind of
word play.
Brecht. Haha, good reference.
I know what you're saying, that actually,
In Southend, come on.
Probably not in Southend. But Richie and Eddie's characters are kind of trying to appeal to the working class.
Yeah.
I think is what you're trying to say, Paul.
Yes.
It's a mishmash. There's no real plot. It's like they've had a few fun ideas and they've tried to put it together. And some of it works, I think.
So-
I don't think... did you sit through 5 completely stony-faced? Not laughing at
Oh,
anything?
no, there were bits I
I
liked.
was
Really?
stony-faced for a fair amount.
Well, I think I watched it with someone. So I think that helped, maybe. I think if you watch it on your own and you're maybe not in the mood, it's not as good, is it? Like, comedy's a unifying thing.
Yeah.
Which is why when they have everyone shout out, have a wank, that bit
We're
in
all
the
in
show
on that,
really feels great because everyone's like in unison.
It's like 20 years of Bottom leading up to that kind of...
It was really, I like that. When some people say, oh, that's a bit really obvious to do, but I enjoy that.
I can ask you this as someone who had been in the audience for 4 and 5.
Yeah.
During 5, at the end, they started doing the same song they'd ended 4 with. Do you remember what you thought of that?
That's what I said before. Like, I remember even in the room, it was kind of like, isn't this what they did at the end of 4? Like, you still like...
Was there that sort of, you could tell everyone was thinking the same thing of like...
I'm not telepathic.
But you know how like...
And it is a few years ago.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? How like you can detect a ripple across a room,
Yeah. Like you say with the Only Fools and Horses thing, you could feel that everyone was like, oh, amazing, they're doing the song again. Whereas this... I think that was what I said about 4.
That's working class people for you. They've got no taste.
This song isn't catchy enough or brilliant enough or whatever you want to say for everyone to be up on their feet and going, get your pants off.
Maybe if they'd done like Living Doll at the end or something like that. You know?
Yeah, they would have been better off. Like you said, Matt, come back on with all the costume on or something and do Living Doll as the young ones or something. And actually just say this is us doing our final tour and we're out kind of thing. Because that is what it ended up being, isn't it? Even if they didn't know that.
Can you imagine? But Rick as Rick, Aid as Vivian, and then
Dawn French as Neil.
And then Monica and Les Ferdinand as Mike and Neil.
Right, yeah.
Great.
There are lots of things that you sit here now thinking, have they done that? That would have been brilliant. But if they had, would we have been like, that was a bit naff when they brought the dolls out? Do you know,
I can't believe they said they went back in time and they fucked Joan of Arc when she was on fire. What a shit idea.
How bloody obvious is that?
Was it this one or number 4 that had what in the name of Janet Street Porter's rotting clitoris?
That's my highlight. So I want to say there's some really...
highlights. Let's just go for things we liked.
So highlight for me, the line... What in the name of Janet Street Porter's rotting clitoris?
And it's the way he pronounces rotting and clitoris. Yeah.
And Janet Street Porter.
I like the saw between the legs.
Yeah,
very
fun.
dangerous brothers.
Feeling sore.
Yeah, feeling sore. That's such a dad joke, isn't it?
Yeah, but I like the fact that saying it with a bleeding wound in between your legs and feeling oh god. And the sped up version of the first act, I think, is very stylish.
Yeah. For me, sped up version of first act. There are some well-written insults and bits of wordplay. What in the name of Satan's fetid foreskin? Janet Street Porter's rotting clitoris? Amoeba-brained byproducts of animal buggery? Like, those things are poetic.
They really are. It's like poetic filth.
Oh, and I like the fact that Eddie gets to wield a sledgehammer and just literally just twats Richie in the chest with it, and that which makes him go, oh god, I need to shit. There was something about that was like because it's not obvious that, like, you think, well, it's not across the face and it's not in the balls, but he's just thwacking his body with it. And I like the array of weapons in the background as well.
There's a lot of good points, like you said. It's like they put together a few really good little set pieces of sketches, whatever you want to call it, and then it just, as a whole, doesn't quite come together and give you a satisfactory ending.
Sure, but it's just because we're comparing it to such good stuff.
Exactly. The same as we had at the end of Series 3, it was kind of like, well, it's only because we absolutely adore Series 1 and 2, despite a few, we found niggles even within that. But there were just that little bit more like niggly kind of things.
Yeah, I want to go on record as saying I would watch Series 3 over Bottom Line 4 and 5 any day of the week. Fuck apples and oranges. No, that's the wrong expression. It's apples and shit-covered apples.
I'd still eat that shit-covered apple. I'd still watch it. If all I had left in my DVD collection and everything else got destroyed was Bottom 4 and Bottom 5. If I had no other access to anything to watch of Rick and Aid's stuff, if like the apocalypse happens and that's all I've got left, I'll still watch them.
What a grim thing that would be. the only remain. Just imagine,
but when I've got everything else
Hardy
to choose from, you choose the other stuff, don't you? Like you go back to your old favourites, and I haven't rewatched 4 and 5 as much as I watched 1, 2,
I
and 3.
can quote a lot more.
And there might be people out there who've only really ever had 4 and 5 on DVD.
What's wrong with it? Why would they do that? Why would you not have? You'd start with 1. Let me start with the magic number 4.
Yeah, it's that thing if it pales in comparison.
So, what were your niggles?
Yeah, there's a very racist tirade of Chinese stuff.
It's Eddie's. It's in the whole see me do this, isn't it? And Eddie brings out his Oriental impression.
Yeah,
right.
Not repeat any of the words, so we don't want to have that taken out of context and blacklist the future jobs.
He says slanty eye, doesn't
he?
Why
you sat there with blackface on?
Right. Eddie says slanty eye. Then it's also the bad Chinese impression where you add lots of L's instead of R's. Yeah.
Which even in 2003 was a little bit.
But
then we've said this about the show. They've had Eddie be racist about.
He said slanty-eyed fiend when he's being dragged up the stairs in Burglary.
So they have referenced that kind of thing before anyway. So again, it's kind of repeating old kind of Eddie hits, isn't it? So is your niggle that it's just a bit too racist?
It's a little bit too racist and not funny. My biggest niggle is the American stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just think it's nothing. It's not even offensive. It's just, what was that?
Same here.
Fucking hell was that?
That's my biggest niggle. It's 2 minutes you could have lopped out. Even if you did it on stage and maybe the audience thought it was all right, you should have cut it out for the DVD because it gave nothing. I thought, and
it makes the energy fall a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Too long.
You're like, you're still doing this 2 minutes later. Okay, yeah, I could have gone to the toilet.
What is the running time on Bottom 5?
Oh, it's like 95 minutes, something like that.
Because it's shorter, isn't it? I think they finished up the first half at 49 minutes. I think per time. That's when Act 1 finishes, and that's early, isn't it? Usually they get into about an hour at least.
Well, I think the first one was about 100 minutes long. That would be an hour for the first half and 40 minutes for the second, but you would usually want to try and split it.
You get about an hour in the first, don't you?
Well, for my mind, if you've got a show that runs at 90 minutes, the ideal thing is to have 45 and 45, but or 50 and
often they do
40.
give a longer first half. Don't they? I think that they rely too much on those just huge pants coming out at the end.
Oh, right.
They expected that to get.
So we said the song's a niggle because that is a difficult thing to watch again, isn't it? When you've just watched 4 as well.
I will say, as much as think it's a bit obvious to have a big pair of pants on stage, I'd love to have them at home in my loft as a thing of I've got this prop from Bottom Live 2003. I've got the massive pair of pants.
Living room.
You'd actually want that?
I would. What?
Even though you've just absolutely decimated the entire live show.
Yeah.
You'd have that.
And
And deprive other real fans.
can
of
you
having
imagine?
that.
Can you imagine going to one of those shows and getting the pair of pants that Rick throws
threw,
out
yeah.
into
Then
the
you frame
audience?
them, wouldn't you?
That'd
Yeah.
be absolutely amazing, yeah.
Okay, it's time for a quiz. 10 questions on Bottom Live 2003 Weapons Grade Y-Fronts Tour. Matt and Angela, you guys are the contestants. It's my questions this week. Let's hear what your fart noises will be.
Right, I'm going to go with wet fart. There you are.
And I'll go with quick fart. It's been good to me. Obviously, we've come to the end of our bottom content, as it were. So we've done 3 series plus technically kind of series 4 in terms of we've done 3 series of 6 episodes from the TV series, and then there have been 6 individual episodes, bottom live 1 to 5 plus Guest House Paradiso. So the total that we're going to be going for is like out of 24, isn't it? Who's done the best?
That's right.
But each time, each one of 3, one of us isn't competing. It's not each one of us each time, is it? So then the
But
maths gets a bit weird.
It evens
But it evens out. Okay.
because it's a round even number at the
Fine.
end, so it's 24. So we've each
So
had a
it
go
is
at being
fair.
quizmaster an
Okay.
equal amount of times. equal amount of times.
We've each competed in 16 quizzes each. So whatever
Okay.
by the time we do this quiz, everyone will
It's
have
out of
taken
16.
part in 16.
16
It's-
would be the highest you could get.
Yeah,
Right.
as an individual score. I think
Sure.
that's the right.
So imagine it would be 16 apiece, really. It's pretty equal, yes?
No,
Oh.
that's not maths.
I have a feeling I know who's going to win.
Who's won?
Yes, let's wait and
Okay.
see who wins this one, and then we'll see what that does to the overall tally.
Sure.
Yeah, anyone else can go back and listen to who won what, but I did it in preparation so that we'll definitely have the right winner at the end.
All right.
Not that there's a prize, right, Paul?
Correct.
Right, good.
Right, question number 1, fingers on sphincters. How long does Richie say that Eddie has been locked in the lavatory? That was Matt who buzzed in first.
That is 15 days.
Is the correct answer. Question number 2. After insisting that he's not actually Eddie and Richie initially believing it, how does Eddie give away his identity? That's Matt.
By asking for some money, like, give me a bribe.
I'll let you have that. He says, "What's it worth?" when Richie asks if he knows where Eddie is.
Okay.
I'll let you have that. That's 2 to Matt. Okay, question number 3. When Richie is being intellectual, who does he tell Eddie to imagine he is that then prompts Eddie to start beating him with a frying pan? Angela.
Oscar Wilde.
That's not the right answer.
No, I know what it is.
Would have been my
Go on.
No, it's gone again.
Okay. I haven't actually written the answer down here, but I'm pretty sure it's Tony Blair. He says, just imagine I'm Tony Blair.
Right, yeah, there is a Tony Blair reference in
okay.
there. So.
The answer is, insert here later, Paul. I'm pretty sure it's Tony Blair. And that's
Tony
when
Blair.
he says, imagine I'm Tony Blair. Then he starts
Neither
hitting
of
him.
us got it right.
Bloody great bird.
Okay, question number 4. What does Eddie hit Richie with that prompts his farting and makes him worry he's going to shit himself? That's Matt.
A sledgehammer.
Is the right answer. Okay, so that's 3 to Matt. Question number 5. When Eddie recounts the story of how he invented weapons grade lager, what were the ingredients he mentions? I want 2 sets of ingredients and a catalyst.
I can't even think of a wild stab in the dark here. other than-
Right, so it's something. I think the catalyst is being completely drunk.
No, that's the result of. That's the end of the process.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Luck.
No, okay, so the answer is, so the ingredients are various industrial strength cleaners
Right.
and the contents of the medical cabinet, and then the catalyst is the heat of his own multi-breath and flatulence.
Okay.
Question number 6. What 4 letters are written on the weapons grade lager bottle? Matt.
G, M, T, V.
Is the right answer.
Brilliant.
That's okay.
Why
So
is that?
Because it completely fucks your head,
That's it.
your brain.
okay, here we go.
It seems like a bit of a callback to the Esther Ranson, but not as good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of a mixture, isn't it, of that and the good morning thing.
Okay, Angela, your buzzer's working fine.
It is working. I'm just drinking.
Okay. All right. Okay. Here we
Should
go.
have done this before.
All right. Question number 7. What illustrates the Richard family arms? I'm going to give that to Angela. I think she just pipped you there, Matt.
It is a dying swan that is being somehow attacked to death by a unicorn with massive bollocks.
Yes. Does the dying swan have anything and attributes about it?
Big tits.
Yeah. And does the unicorn maybe have a look on its face? You know what? I'm going to give it to you. Yes, that was virtually verbatim. A dying swan with large breasts being trampled to death by a unicorn with enormous bollocks and a roguish grin on its face.
Roguish, not rakish.
Roguish.
But I will give you that because, that was very nearly all of them. Okay. I won't give the current scores because I don't want to put pressure on Angela. Question number 8. Okay. Right. Apart from the cricket bat, there are 4 other weapons in the cabinet Eddie opens. I want you to name 3 of them. Angela just picked that. I want 3 out.
For the question
three
to
out,
be read.
3 out of the 4. So there's already the cricket bat. That one's done.
Yeah.
And there's
So an anvil with a rope.
that's one.
A scaff pole, I think he says, or a scaff stick.
Scuff bar. Yes.
Sorry,
Okay.
okay.
That's 2.
And is it a snow shovel? They don't name it, but it's there.
I don't think so. I think it looks like a big sledgehammer.
There's a sledgehammer and a snow shovel.
Oh, is it?
There's
Okay.
a 5th one they don't name.
No, I thought that was a big mallet. I didn't think it was a snow
It
shovel.
looked to
I
me like
think
a
it's a mallet.
curved snow shovel.
I know what you mean, but I thought it was a bit like Harley Quinn's mallet.
I thought it, and then my stupid husband said, no, that's a snow shovel.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And isn't he holding a crowbar as well that it doesn't mention?
That's what he
He
takes.
picks
scaffolding.
up that
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to point at the
Yeah.
other implements.
Okay, because I'm not sure if it's a snow shovel. It might be. I thought it was a mallet. Okay, can you name the other one?
So we've had anvil, cricket bat, scaff pole,
Yeah.
sledgehammer. Isn't that it?
No, the sledgehammer is already out. I'll give it to you because I'm not sure if it's a snow shovel. I thought it was a mallet. The final one is a sports sock with billiard balls in it.
That's a good one, actually. It reminds me of...
It's like
Scum.
it's like the entire fucking set of billiard balls.
Yeah.
And snooker balls.
We're on question number 9, and it's 4 to Matt and 2 to Angela. Okay.
Okay. Everything to play for.
The magazines that get pulled out. There is a welding one called Hot, Hot, Hot.
Yeah.
What are the name of the 3 porn mags that Eddie reads out the title of? That's Angela.
Can I look at my notes?
And I want all
No.
I want all 3
Oh,
as
okay.
near as possible. So
It's-
if you only get 2, it doesn't count.
Pensioners.
Oh, there is a pensioners one, yes.
Dirty pensioners.
If you can give me there's 3 words before pensioners. If you can give me 2 of them, that's one of these things.
Old.
I think that goes without saying, doesn't it, for pensioners?
Grubby.
I know, but I won that magazine.
Horny.
Grubby pensioners.
Horny, grubby pension. No, I can't remember. Sorry.
Any of the others?
Something about vag.
Okay, I don't think you're going to get it. Matt?
No, I don't
Okay,
know.
so the thing you were looking for was knicker-busting amateur pensioners.
That amateur.
Amateur pensioners sound
Then-
funny.
Oh, I've got
They're
it
never
now.
gonna
Then
be
there's
pros,
also
are they?
pre-op readers' wives' accidents.
Oh.
And I think you've got the last one there, Angela?
Is it sumo donkey wrestling?
Sumo donkey anal wrestling.
Anal wrestling, sorry.
Okay,
I thought
along,
there might be children listening.
along with the more legitimate hot, hot, hot.
But that one's just welding, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Question number 10. According to Eddie, what is the only reason Richie can get into the same pair of jeans he had when he was 17? And that's Matt.
Because he's sewn in to the lining the curtains or
Yeah.
something.
That's right. He's sewn the living room curtains
Yeah.
into the waistband. That's the right answer.
It's like, but he's been knocked around, he's on the floor a lot. At least the knees would have torn or something. It's quite impressive that he's had the same pair of
Well,
denim.
he's not saying he's been wearing the same pair since 17. He's just said he can fit into the same
Oh,
pair he
okay.
wore at 17.
All right, okay.
Yeah, so he obviously kind of rotates them.
Would you guys like the 2 bonus questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Fuck yes.
The Turdist is a joke based on Doctor Who's machine, the TARDIS. What does TARDIS stand for?
Me.
Okay, right. Matt pressed it first, but Angela
Not too busy drinking.
Angela was necking her high strength lager and waving her finger, going me. So you know what? Seeing as how, by the way, Matt won this one 5-2.
Yep.
I'm going to let Angela answer this bonus question. Angela, what's the answer? What does TARDIS stand for?
Time and relative dimension in space.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I think it's dimensions, not
Oh,
dimension. So,
You can fuck yourself.
and,
Fucking Richard. Yeah.
and the final bonus question, according to Wikipedia, how far? No, not how far.
Is this a classic poor one to end on?
No.
How big are the pants?
Actually, no. This is
How far is Southend
it is a relatively genuine.
from Hammersmith?
No, I was going to say no. That was going to be a question. How far is Hammersmith from Southend?
Didn't look it up, even though I knew you might ask. Go on.
According to Wikipedia, how many dates / performances were there on the Weapons Grade Y Fronts tour?
I don't even care.
Well, it's bottom related. It's related to this show.
All right, 50.
Angela,
I'll say 41.
you say 41. Matt,
50.
and the
Wow.
answer is 50. Oh, you say 51. The answer is 52.
You're still closer.
And at the end of that quiz, well, without the bonus questions anyway, Matt has 5, Angela has 2. So Matt wins this one.
Yes.
So, Angela, what,
Well done, Matt.
what does that do to the overall total?
The overall total.
You've got a smugness to you that suggests
I'm
I'm
very drunk.
okay.
But
so
yeah,
I still.
I might have not felt as much jeopardy there as other people listening might have felt if they hadn't totted it all up beforehand. So that brings you romping in, Matt, in the final place with 5 overall in the last,
Out of
16.
out of
16.
16. So you got 5.
Oh, okay. I always thought I was relatively intelligent about
Hey, you
bottom
are. You know
related
your
stuff.
bottom. You know your own bottom.
Yeah.
Very well.
5. So that's pretty. But that is
That's
the
all right.
weakest out of the 3 of you.
Yeah, your final place there with 5.
Okay.
And then who's the big number 2?
Well, you've got 8, Paul. So that's
I've got 8.
That's pretty good, isn't it? 8 out of 16. That's like
16.
half of them that you got.
Sure, I've got 8. Are you sure it's not 9?
No, it's 8.
Okay. So.
And then
how many have you
I got, I don't know how, 11 out of
got? That's, yeah.
16. I totted them all up. If anybody wants to go and listen back,
All right.
verify this number, they
If you
can
do want to
That's-
go
that's- that-
re-over
that's-
and verify
that's
that
bollocks.
Andrew's a fucking liar, please email us at.
That's bollocks. That's bollocks.
It's just maths.
Hmm.
Maths.
So-
There is no prize other than just that I'm
Just
sad, really,
honour.
I think.
Okay.
To have known a lot of the numbers and things. But you, Paul, you tried your best with some of the questions over the series, didn't you? With the
I don't know.
how far is it from my arsehole to Abe Edmondson's cock?
So that's
Very, very short amount of distance. So surely.
So-
yeah.
So Matt wins that one. That
Well
brings
done.
us to a conclusion of what we'll call Series 4. We'll be back next time with probably a Series 4 roundup.
Well, surely this is the Series 4 roundup will be the last of Talking Bottom, and we're completely done now.
Well,
We've
we-
done every single bottom thing.
We've had
haven't we?
people writing in like threatening suicide if we don't do more. So we kind of thought we might be able to do some more of Rick and Aid's material. We could be like talking Blackadder for one-off
The
episode.
very famous Rick and Aid show Blackadder, you're
Well,
right.
they've both been in it, so we could do.
Are we going
bit
to
of
do? Oh,
Blackadder?
we're
could
going to do the young ones as well.
Yeah, we'll probably do the young
So
ones.
we're
We'll probably
thinking-
mention that.
Rather than do individual episodes on every individual episode of these shows, we'll do an episode on the young ones, one on Filthy Rich and Catflap, one on Blackadder.
Ah,
Mate,
come on.
but-
Who will? If we aren't the people who do one per episode of Young Ones, it will not happen. I think maybe.
Actually,
Young
you're
Ones,
right, no
we
one's
could
done
probably
that
do
yet,
it.
have they?
We could probably do Young Ones.
We might be.
I
persuaded.
think that's within our ballpark. But Blackadder and Filthy Rich and Catflap and comic strip, yes, one-offs
We'll
ones.
do
But
that.
I think probably Young Ones, because what else have we got going on in our lives? Very little. So yeah, we will probably.
Well, speak for yourself.
The-
Matt, but yeah.
The vultures of comedy will return.
Let us know your opinions on social media. We are at Talking Bottom on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And also, let us know your thoughts if you ever got to see any of the live shows, especially the one we talked about today. But if you were in the audience for any of them, or if you went to see any of the shows being recorded, get in contact, 11maffickingparade@gmail.com, and let us know what that was like.
And have you got any anecdotes from meeting Rick and Aid or anyone famous that's interesting
something,
related
yeah.
to Bottom?
Me and Ange have both met Rick Mao, and Paul hasn't, unfortunately. But we we can finally talk about that in the Series 4 roundup, because
Yeah.
that's something
think
we've
it'd be
just not
nice.
shared that anecdote.
Yeah.
Maybe that might be interesting. Paul's looking at me with fucking daggers right now.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone.
Apologies for the sound issues on these last 2 episodes. Coronavirus renovated Angie's house.
A bit more echoey in here.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Sure, yeah.
We're now broadcasting from inside, a cavernous arsehole. It's going to be.
But enough about Matt. Anyway, thanks for listening. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.